Welcome back to Wisdom Unveiled. Ready for another deep dive into Rumi?
Absolutely. Always excited to explore his insights.
Me too. So we're on episode 10 of our 40-episode journey with Rumi. And remember, folks, we're working with translations of conversations between Iranian philosophers Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani. Might be a few things lost in translation, but that's part of what makes this so interesting.
It certainly adds another layer to the exploration.
Right. It really does. Okay, so today we're diving into Rumi's take on purity. And I was really struck by Dr. Dinani's point about how Islamic thought makes a distinction between, physical and spiritual cleanliness.
It's a fundamental distinction, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
He used this really simple example. Water can clean your body, but can it really cleanse your soul?
That's such a powerful image. It really forces us to confront the deeper meaning of purity.
It does. And, it's interesting because Dr. Dinani also pointed out that in Islamic tradition, there's a limited number of physical impurities, things that make you ritually unclean.
Right. But when it comes to the soul,
Countless impurities.
countless. It's a bit overwhelming when you think about it.
It is. It makes you realize that achieving spiritual purity isn't like checking off a to-do list.
Definitely not. It's a lifelong journey of self-discovery and refinement.
Totally. And to illustrate this, Rumi uses a really vivid analogy. He compares a human being to a sunch.
Jet.
Yeah, an earthenware jug. But this jug has 5 pipes connected to it. They represent our 5 senses.
Ah, I see where this is going. Those pipes are constantly pouring water into the jug, right?
Exactly. And that water. It represents all the sensory information, the desires, the worries, everything that floods our minds every single day.
If we're not careful, that jug, our inner being, gets completely polluted.
Right. It's like trying to find a moment of peace in a chaotic world. Everything's vying for our attention. It's tough to keep that inner space pure.
It is a constant battle, isn't it?
Definitely. So what does Rumi suggest we do about this?
Well, he puts a lot of emphasis on keeping our senses under the control of reason. In Arabic, it's called aql.
So it's not about ignoring our senses, but about managing them.
Exactly. It's about using our intellect to filter what we allow into our hearts and minds. We become the guardians of our inner space.
So it's less about shutting things out and more about being selective about what we let in, making conscious choices about what we focus on.
That's a great way to put it. It's about cultivating discernment, about choosing those things that nourish our souls.
Okay, that makes sense. So we have this problem of our etch being polluted by, life, essentially. But Rumi doesn't leave us hanging, does he? He actually offers a solution.
Right. And it's such a beautiful image. He talks about connecting this kesh, this earthenware jug, to the vast ocean of divine truth.
Okay, now unpack that a little bit. What does that look like, practically speaking?
Imagine this. You have a little clay jug, maybe filled with muddy water, and suddenly it's connected to this infinite source of pure, clear water. It's constantly being cleansed, renewed, transformed.
Wow, that's powerful imagery. And, it reminds me of the Sufi concept of Fana.
Fana.
Yes, the annihilation of the self and the divine. It's like that muddy water, all the impurities of the ego, they just get completely washed away by this infinite ocean of divine truth.
That's a really beautiful connection. It's not about literally disappearing, of course. It's about dissolving those boundaries between the individual self and the divine.
So true purity is less about scrubbing ourselves clean and more about connecting so deeply with the divine that those impurities just fade away.
Exactly. It's a shift in perspective, a recognition that our true nature is pure and interconnected with something much greater than ourselves. And this reminds me of Dr. Dinani's thoughts on Eid al-Fitr, the celebration at the end of Ramadan.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, he suggests that Eid al-Fitr is about returning to our original pure state, our Fitrat.
Fitrat.
Yes. But he emphasizes that it's not a one-time event, it's an ongoing process.
Like hitting the reset button again and again.
Yes, exactly. We spend a month cleansing both body and soul during Ramadan, and then the challenge is to maintain that purity, to keep refining ourselves.
And that connects back to the idea of the Ikhuch being constantly cleansed by that ocean.
Exactly. It's a beautiful image of this ongoing purification, this constant renewal. And the act of fasting during Ramadan plays a key role in this process.
How so?
Well, when we fast, we're essentially restricting those 5 pipes, our senses. We're weakening their influence, giving our souls a chance to breathe, to turn inwards.
It's like creating a space for introspection, for deeper reflection.
Precisely. It's an opportunity to connect with our inner compass, to rediscover that pure essence within. And this reminds me of Rumi's story about the Chinese and Roman artists.
Oh yeah, the one where they're competing to decorate the Sultan's palace.
That's the one. Remember how the Chinese artists go all out with these elaborate, ornate decorations?
It's all about extravagance and outward appearances.
Right, but the Romans, they focus on just one thing: polishing a single wall to a mirror-like finish.
And that's always resonated with me. It's like Rumi's contrasting two different approaches to life, isn't he?
He is. The Chinese artists, they represent those who are chasing fleeting pleasures, caught up in the material world.
They're ornate decorations, they're beautiful but temporary.
Exactly. They symbolize the distractions that keep us from seeking true purity.
And the Roman artists,
They represent those who focus on the inner work.
the meticulous polishing of the wall. That's a metaphor for purifying the heart.
Precisely. It's about creating a space within ourselves where the divine light.
More accurate and beautiful image of the divine.
Yes. Remember Dr. Dinani's powerful statement. If this mirror had a tongue, it would say, "I am the sun."
Wow, chills.
Right. A truly purified heart becomes indistinguishable from the divine light it reflects. It's not about being perfect, but about creating that space of pure receptivity.
So it's about clearing away those things that cloud our vision.
Exactly. Removing the dust and grime of our ego and desires so that the divine light can shine through unimpeded.
This is so insightful. We've talked about controlling our senses, connecting with the divine, and purifying our hearts. But how do we actually do that? What are the practical steps?
Ah, the million-dollar question. And thankfully, Rumi gives us some guidance. He talks about certain qualities we can cultivate, qualities that actively polish that mirror within. It's not just about removing the dirt. It's like actively making the mirror more reflective.
So what are some of those qualities that can make our hearts more reflective?
Well, Rumi talks a lot about humility.
Humility, makes sense. Pride and arrogance would definitely cloud our vision.
Exactly. They act like a thick layer of dust on that mirror, distorting everything.
So humility is about recognizing our limitations, our need for something bigger than ourselves.
Yes. It's about letting go of that ego that always needs to be right, to be in control.
So it's kind of surrender, acknowledging that we're part of something larger.
Precisely. Humility allows us to approach the world with a beginner's mind, with a sense of wonder and gratitude.
And in that space of humility, there's room for growth, for connection.
Exactly. And another quality Rumi emphasizes is kindness.
Kindness seems simple enough.
It is, but it's also incredibly profound.
Yeah, we often think of kindness as something we extend to others, but it's also about how we treat ourselves, right?
Absolutely. Rumi sees kindness as a reflection of divine love.
Divine love.
Yes, it's about recognizing that spark of the divine in everyone, even those who challenge us.
Remembering that everyone's fighting their own battles.
Exactly. And every act of kindness, no matter how small, helps to polish that mirror.
It's like each act is a drop of water gently cleansing that surface.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And speaking of cleansing, it brings to mind the idea of forgiveness.
Forgiveness, yeah. Holding on to grudges and resentments, that's like letting the mirror rust.
It certainly is. Forgiveness is essential for spiritual purification.
It's about letting go of those negative emotions that weigh us down.
Exactly. Those emotions cloud our hearts and prevent us from experiencing true joy and peace.
I have to admit, though, forgiveness can be really difficult, especially when we've been deeply hurt. What does Rumi say about that?
He acknowledges that it's not easy, but he sees forgiveness as a gift we give ourselves, a way to free ourselves from the chains of the past.
So it's not about condoning what happened or forgetting.
No, it's about choosing to let go of the negative energy we're holding on to.
Creating space for healing and compassion.
Precisely. And that might not involve reconciling with the person who hurt us. It's about shifting our own internal state.
Choosing peace over bitterness. It's like finally putting down a heavy weight we've been carrying for far too long. And, it strikes me that forgiveness, just like humility and kindness, it's a choice.
It is. It's a conscious decision to cultivate a certain quality within ourselves.
So it's not about passively waiting for our hearts to become pure. It's about actively taking steps.
That's right. Rumi's calling us to participate in this process, not just observe it.
So we've got humility, kindness, and forgiveness. Are there other qualities Rumi emphasizes?
Yes. He talks about gratitude as a powerful force for purification.
Gratitude. I know I could use a little more of that in my life. It's so easy to get caught up in what's missing,
It is. Our minds tend to focus on what we lack.
But gratitude is about shifting that focus.
Right, exactly. It's about recognizing and appreciating the abundance that already exists in our lives.
Even in the midst of challenges.
Yes, even then. Taking the time to appreciate a beautiful sunset, a warm cup of tea, the simple act of breathing.
It's like saying to the universe, hey, thanks for all of this. I'm open to receiving even more.
And you know, gratitude isn't just about feeling good. It has a transformative effect on our hearts.
How so?
When we appreciate what we have, we open ourselves up to receiving even more. It's like creating a positive feedback loop.
That makes sense. And it connects back to that image of the Kanik Devich connected to the ocean of divine truth, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Cultivating gratitude is like opening those channels, making ourselves more receptive to that divine influx.
And as we become more receptive, we naturally start radiating that same light outward.
Precisely. We become beacons of love, wisdom, and compassion. And that brings up a really interesting point that Dr. Dinani made about the social implications of purity.
Oh. How does purity relate to society?
Well, he was talking about how a pure heart, one that's free from spiritual impurities, is naturally inclined toward justice.
So it's not just about individual transformation. It has a ripple effect on the world around us.
Exactly. He was saying that when we're not consumed by our own selfish desires, we're more attuned to the needs of others.
We can see injustice more clearly and are moved to act.
Right. And working towards justice, he emphasized, isn't about imposing our beliefs on others.
It's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Yes, a world that reflects those divine attributes of love, compassion, fairness.
It makes me think of Rumi's idea of wadat al-wujud, the unity of being, the idea that we're all interconnected.
Exactly. And when we grasp that truth, our actions naturally become more aligned with creating a just and compassionate world.
Because harming another person is essentially harming ourselves.
Precisely. And Rumi's poetry constantly reminds us of this interconnectedness. He encourages us to look beyond our differences.
To see the shared humanity that binds us together.
It's like looking at a mosaic. Each piece might be different, but together they create a beautiful work of art.
And creating that kind of harmonious world starts with our own hearts.
Yes, with our own journey of purification.
Because if we're constantly competing, clinging to our separateness, it's a breeding ground for envy and conflict.
But when we embrace our interconnectedness, we create a foundation for cooperation, understanding, and compassion.
So as we strive to purify our own hearts, we also need to extend that purity outward.
Into our communities, our societies, the world.
Working to create a world that reflects those divine attributes of justice, compassion, and unity.
A world where everyone can experience the transformative power of purity.
What a beautiful vision. You know, as we're talking about this more beautiful world, I keep thinking back to Dr. Dinani's comments about the connection between purity and beauty.
Ah, yes. He was saying that there's a deeper, more universal beauty that's linked to purity.
So not just about outward appearances.
No, not at all. This is about a beauty that touches the soul. It emanates from the divine source itself.
Like the beauty we experience in nature. A stunning sunset, the intricate patterns in a snowflake. It evokes a sense of awe.
Exactly. That same beauty can be found in the human heart, in a purified soul. It shines through in actions that flow from love and compassion.
So it's not about conforming to outward standards, but about cultivating an inner beauty that radiates outward.
Precisely. And what's fascinating is that Dr. Dinani suggested that this inner beauty actually changes how we see the world.
Really? Changes our perception.
Yes. He said that when our hearts are pure, when we're not blinded by those impurities, we start to see the world through a different lens, the lens of love, of compassion, of divine grace.
So instead of seeing the world through a lens of fear or scarcity, we see the beauty, the interconnectedness, the sacredness in everything.
Exactly. We begin to see beauty in the ordinary, the sacred in the mundane. It's like the world becomes a reflection of Rumi's poetry.
And this beauty we perceive, it's a reflection of a deeper reality, of that divine essence.
Yes. And it's incredibly powerful. It fills us with a sense of joy and gratitude, even amidst challenges.
It's like the world becomes this symphony of beauty.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not passive.
Yeah.
This beauty invites us to participate.
To co-create with the divine, to bring even more beauty into the world.
Exactly. We become instruments of beauty, expressing that divine essence through our words, our actions, our very being.
And this brings us back to purity as a transformative force. It's not just about personal transformation, but about transforming the world around us.
Because a pure heart, a heart that sees beauty in all things, naturally inclines toward kindness and generosity.
And those qualities, they ripple outward, inspiring others to see the world differently.
It's a chain reaction. It's like love and beauty, transforming hearts and uplifting the world, one act of kindness at a time.
As we're talking about seeing the world with new eyes, it reminds me of Dr. Dinani's point about purity and insight.
Ah, yes. He was saying that a pure heart can see more clearly both within and without.
So it's like those spiritual impurities act as filters, distorting our perception.
Exactly, like looking through a dirty window. As we purify our hearts, we wipe away those smudges, allowing us to see more clearly.
We start to see through those illusions and distractions.
Right. And that clarity, it extends to both the external world and our own inner landscape.
We gain a deeper understanding of ourselves.
Exactly. Our motivations, strengths, weaknesses, it's all clearer.
That self-awareness is essential for growth, isn't it?
It is. We can't change what we don't acknowledge.
So the more we polish that inner mirror, the more clearly it reflects both the world around us and our own inner being.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's fascinating how inner and outer clarity are so intertwined. And Dr. Dinani made the point that this kind of insight comes with spiritual maturity.
It's a natural consequence of the journey of purification.
Exactly.
So as we cultivate those qualities we were talking about, humility, kindness, forgiveness, gratitude, our vision naturally expands.
It's like climbing a mountain. The higher we climb, the more we can see.
And with each step, a new perspective emerges, a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of everything.
And that expanded perspective helps us make wiser choices, to live more authentically, to navigate life's challenges with more grace.
It's empowering, isn't it? And it makes me think about how Dr. Dinani also talked about insight in terms of basirat, which is discernment.
Yes. Discernment is that ability to distinguish between truth and falsehood, to see through illusion.
Like an inner compass.
Precisely. And that compass, that discernment, is honed through purification. It's not about blindly following rules, but about developing our own inner knowing.
And that inner knowing comes from clearing away the things that cloud our judgment.
Exactly. It's about removing those impurities that distort our perception. And Rumi's poetry is like a mirror, reflecting back to us our potential for purity, insight, and love.
It's a beautiful image.
As we look into that mirror, let's allow ourselves to be transformed by what we see.
To embrace the journey of purification and step more fully into those radiant beings we were born to be.
That's a beautiful aspiration.
It is. And, speaking of transformation, I was really intrigued by Dr. Larijani's concept of death and rebirth.
Ah, yes. That's a powerful concept.
He was talking about how spiritual purification often involves this process of dying to our old selves.
To those limiting beliefs and patterns that hold us back, like a snake shedding its skin.
Exactly. Making space for a new, more authentic self to emerge.
And as you can imagine, this process isn't always easy. It can be quite challenging. But Dr. Larijani emphasized that this isn't about physical death.
It's about spiritual transformation.
Right. It's a shift in consciousness, a way of seeing ourselves and the world in a new light.
Like a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. There's a period of darkness, of dissolution, before the new form emerges.
Such a perfect analogy. And it's natural to feel resistance, maybe even fear, when faced with this process. We're letting go of who we thought we were.
It's a bit unsettling, right?
It can be. But Dr. Larijani reminds us that on the other side of that, death is a new life.
A life infused with greater freedom, joy, and purpose.
Exactly. And this new life, this reborn self, is more aligned with our true nature.
So it's not about becoming someone else, it's about becoming more fully ourselves.
That's it, those radiant beings we were always meant to be. And Rumi's poetry is filled with images of this death and rebirth. It's a reminder that this process is a natural part of the human experience.
It's a path that leads us to wholeness and connection with the divine.
Beautifully said.
And this idea of death and rebirth connects with the Sufi practice of Fana, doesn't it?
Ah, yes, Fana, the annihilation of the self and the divine.
The idea of dissolving the ego and merging with the divine.
Exactly. And Dr. Larijani emphasized that this death of the old self is essential for experiencing true unity.
It's like as long as we're clinging to that separate sense of self, we can't fully experience that boundless love that comes from the divine.
So that's a key point. It's not about obliterating the self entirely, but about transcending the limitations of the ego.
Recognizing that we're part of a larger whole.
Yes. It's not about becoming nothing. It's about becoming everything. It's merging with that infinite ocean of being.
And this experience of Fana is often described as a state of bliss, of profound peace and joy.
It's like all the boundaries dissolve, and we're left with this pure experience of love, light, and interconnectedness.
It makes me wonder if this state of Fana is something we can experience continuously, or if it's more of a fleeting glimpse.
That's an interesting question. Dr. Larijani seemed to suggest that it's not necessarily a permanent state. It's like a glimpse into the heart of reality.
An experience we can return to again and again as we continue on our path.
You're absolutely right, and that's the beauty of it. It's not about escaping the world, but about bringing that experience of unity back into our everyday lives.
Becoming vessels of that divine light.
Exactly. Radiating it outward.
And Rumi's poetry offers a map for this journey.
It does. His words guide us through the darkness and into that radiant light of divine unity.
It's inspiring to think we can access this kind of transformation. And speaking of transformation, I was really moved by Dr. Larijani's insights on the role of divine love in this process.
Ah, yes. Divine love. After all, Rumi is often called the poet of divine love.
Exactly. Dr. Larijani described divine love as this fire that burns away impurities.
The ego's attachments, those limiting beliefs that keep us separate.
It's like the phoenix rising from the ashes. The old self is consumed, and a new, more radiant self emerges.
What a powerful image. And it's important to remember that this kind of love isn't about sentimentality or romantic attachment.
Right. This is something much deeper.
It's a force that shatters illusions, breaks down our defenses, and opens us to a different way of experiencing reality.
It challenges us to grow and evolve.
Exactly. It's about being willing to be completely consumed by a love that pushes us to become more than we ever thought possible.
It's a surrender to something much larger than ourselves.
And that surrender, as you can imagine, can feel scary. But Dr. Larijani reminded us that this divine love is often described as a state of intoxication.
Intoxication.
Yes, a blissful drunkenness that goes beyond the limitations of the mind.
It's like being swept away by a powerful current, a sense of unity beyond words.
And Rumi's poetry is full of descriptions of this ecstatic state. It's like his words are a transmission of that divine love.
And Dr. Larijani made the point that this experience isn't reserved for a select few.
Right. It's available to anyone who's willing to open their heart and surrender their ego.
It's like a vast ocean waiting for us to dive in.
And Rumi's poetry acts as a lifeline, guiding us through those depths.
Reminding us that we're not alone on this path.
We're all seeking to return to our true home, that source of love and beauty. His words offer comfort and inspiration.
No matter where we are on our journey, we're always moving closer to that destination.
Towards unity with the divine.
And speaking of that divine light, I remember something Dr. Dinani said that really resonated with me. He compared a pure heart to a lamp.
A lamp.
Yeah, a lamp that's been filled with oil and lit. It radiates that divine light out into the world.
Oh, yes. I remember that. It's such a beautiful image. And he was talking about how in many spiritual traditions, light symbolizes the divine.
It represents knowledge, wisdom, guidance.
Exactly. And Dr. Dinani suggested that a pure heart, cleansed of those spiritual impurities, becomes a vessel for that divine light.
It has the capacity to illuminate the darkness.
To guide others towards truth and goodness. And he emphasized that this light isn't something we create ourselves. It's a reflection of the divine light that already exists within each of us.
It's not about generating light, but about removing the obstacles.
The barriers that prevent it from shining through.
It's like polishing a diamond, right? The diamond's already beautiful and radiant, but it needs to be polished to reveal its full brilliance.
Perfect analogy. And as we purify ourselves, as we clear away those obscurations, that divine light can shine through us more brightly.
Illuminating not just our own path, but the paths of others.
We become beacons of light, inspiring others to awaken to their own inner radiance.
And this concept of light, it ties into Rumi's emphasis on knowledge.
Oh, yes. He was talking about how true knowledge, the kind that leads to spiritual awakening, isn't just about accumulating facts.
It's not about memorizing information. It's about transformation.
Right. True knowledge helps us see the world and ourselves in a new light. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness, awakening to the divine presence in all things.
So it's not just about knowing things, it's about being transformed by what we know.
Exactly. And Dr. Dinani suggested that this kind of transformative knowledge is only accessible when our hearts are pure.
Because those impurities act as barriers. They prevent us from seeing clearly, from accessing that deeper level of understanding.
He used a great analogy to explain this. Imagine trying to see the stars from a brightly lit city.
All those city lights create a haze.
Exactly. You can't really see the stars' brilliance. But when you move away from the city, when you find a place of darkness, the stars become visible.
I love that analogy.
In the same way, when we purify our hearts, the light of true knowledge shines through. It illuminates our paths, guiding us toward wisdom.
So knowledge and purity go hand in hand. They support each other on this journey.
They do, and Rumi's poetry is a testament to that. His words are infused with such deep understanding. It's like a transmission of divine light.
It's a source of knowledge and wisdom for all of us.
It is. And as we immerse ourselves in his work, let's remember that true knowledge isn't just about intellectual understanding. It's about experiencing the world in a new way.
It's about awakening to that divine presence that surrounds us and resides within us. And this idea of knowledge as a journey, well, it makes me think of Dr. Larijani's point about how Rumi uses the journey metaphor to describe spiritual purification.
Ah, yes, the journey metaphor. It's so powerful.
And Rumi's poetry is full of it, isn't it? Mountains to climb, deserts to cross, treacherous paths.
He uses vivid imagery. But as Dr. Larijani pointed out, it's not a physical journey.
It's an inward journey.
Exactly, a journey of the soul. It's about embarking on a pilgrimage within ourselves.
So it's not about seeking something outside of ourselves, but about exploring our own inner landscape.
That's it. And often this journey begins with a longing.
A yearning for something more.
Yes, it's that feeling of restlessness, the sense that something is missing.
Like we're searching for something we can't quite name.
Rumi suggests that this longing is the soul's natural desire to return to its source, to connect with the divine.
Like a homing beacon, guiding us back to our true home.
Exactly, to a place of unity and wholeness. And of course, this journey has its challenges.
It's not a walk in the park. There are setbacks, moments of doubt and despair.
It's not a smooth path, that's for sure. But Dr. Larijani was clear that those challenges are crucial for our growth.
They make us stronger.
They do. It's like those challenges are refining fires, They burn away the impurities and forge us into something more resilient.
We discover hidden strengths. And those moments of struggle can lead to incredible insights.
Absolutely. And he also spoke about the importance of guides and companions on this journey.
People who support us along the way.
Yes. It's like those chance encounters that turn out to be so meaningful, connecting with kindred spirits.
People who understand what we're going through.
Exactly. They offer new perspectives, encouragement. It can be so transformative.
It's like finding an oasis in the desert, a place to rest and replenish.
A beautiful way to put it. And as we continue on this journey, we start to shed those layers of our old selves.
Letting go of limiting beliefs.
It's like finally putting down that heavy baggage and allowing ourselves to move forward with more freedom.
And as we approach our destination, that longing for union with the divine, it intensifies.
It does. It's like we catch glimpses of the beloved, feel the warmth of their presence.
And finally, after all those trials and triumphs, we arrive at our destination. The place of unity, of merging with the divine.
It's like returning home.
Experiencing a sense of peace, of belonging.
A profound sense of fulfillment.
And this destination, it's not static, is it? It's a dynamic state of being.
It's a constant process, a dance of love and light.
And Rumi's poetry is a map for this journey. A reminder that we're not alone.
We're all seeking to return to that source.
His words offer both comfort and inspiration.
No matter where we are on this path, we're always moving closer.
Towards that ultimate destination. And, as we talk about this journey, it really makes me reflect on my own experiences. I've definitely had those moments of longing, of challenge, and also those amazing moments of connection and insight.
We all go through those ups and downs. It's a journey with so many twists and turns.
It is. And Rumi's poetry reminds us that it's all part of the process.
That the journey is as important as the destination.
And those challenges, they can be opportunities for growth.
They are. I remember Dr. Larijani shared a beautiful insight about how Rumi views those difficult times.
Tell me about it.
He said that Rumi compares those challenges to the process of polishing a mirror.
Oh, I like that. So we need those tough times.
Well, he was saying that just like a mirror needs to be polished to remove the tarnish, our souls also need those trials to purify us.
So embracing those difficult moments,
Yeah.
seeing them as opportunities to grow.
Exactly. It's those moments of friction, of discomfort, that help us to shed those old patterns and polish away those rough edges.
And that polishing can be painful at times.
It can. But in the end, it allows us to reflect the divine light more clearly.
And Dr. Larijani also connected this to the idea of surrender.
He did. He said that true purification requires surrender.
Surrender. It's such a hard concept. We're so conditioned to be in control.
It is challenging, but Rumi reminds us that true strength lies in surrender, in letting go,
In trusting in the divine.
in recognizing that we're not separate, but part of that larger flow.
So surrendering to that flow.
And when we do, we open ourselves to a level of wisdom and support that's beyond our comprehension.
It's about aligning ourselves with the divine will.
Exactly. And in that alignment, we find true freedom. Not the freedom to control everything, but the freedom to let go.
To release our attachments and embrace the present moment.
Yes. And Rumi's poetry constantly reminds us of the power of the present moment.
The past is gone, the future is uncertain, but the present is a gift.
It's the only place where we can truly experience joy and connect with the divine.
And being present, savoring each breath, it's a form of purification, isn't it?
It is. When we're fully present, we're not consumed by anxieties about the past or worries about the future. We're free to experience the world, to connect, to express gratitude.
It's like finding that stillness amidst the chaos.
And in that stillness, we can hear the whispers of our soul, the guidance of the divine.
That guidance is always there, isn't it?
It is. We just need to cultivate that stillness, that purity of heart, to perceive it.
Rumi's poetry reminds us of this.
It does. And as we continue to explore his work, let's allow his words to guide us.
To live more authentically, to love more deeply, to embrace the beauty of this present moment.
And remember, as Rumi said, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there.
A beautiful sentiment. Well, thank you for joining us on this journey into Rumi's wisdom.
May his words inspire you to cultivate purity, beauty, and love in your own life.
Until next time, may you be filled with the light of the divine.
It really is. His work speaks to the depths of the human experience.
And, you know, as we're talking about this journey, I'm reflecting on those difficult moments.
Yeah.
Dr. Larijani had an interesting take on them.
Oh, how so?
He said that Rumi compares those challenges to polishing a mirror.
Polishing a mirror.
Yeah. Just like a mirror needs to be rubbed and polished to remove the tarnish and reveal its shine.
Ah, I see. Our souls also need those trials and tribulations.
Exactly. To refine and purify us. It's not about avoiding tough experiences.
It's about embracing them, seeing them as opportunities for growth.
Right. Those moments of friction, of discomfort, they help us shed old patterns.
They help us let go of those limiting beliefs, to polish away those rough edges.
And that polishing process can be painful.
It can be, but ultimately it allows us to reflect that divine light more clearly.
And Dr. Larijani connected this to the concept of surrender.
He did. He said true purification requires surrender.
Surrender. It's so hard to wrap my head around sometimes.
It's a challenging concept, for sure, especially in a culture that emphasizes control. But Rumi reminds us that true strength lies in letting go.
In trusting a power greater than ourselves.
Exactly, recognizing that we're not separate from that divine flow.
So surrendering to that flow.
And when we do that, we open ourselves up to a level of wisdom and support that we can't even imagine.
It's like aligning ourselves with the divine will.
Yes. And in that alignment, we find true freedom.
Not the freedom to control everything.
Right. But the freedom to let go of our attachments, to release our fears, and embrace the present moment.
And Rumi's poetry is full of reminders about the power of the present moment.
It is. The past is gone. The future's uncertain. The present moment is a gift.
It's the only place where life is actually happening.
Where we can connect with the divine.
Where we can find true joy. And that practice of being present, savoring each breath, each experience, it's a form of purification in itself.
Absolutely. When we're fully present, we're not weighed down by anxieties about the past. We're not consumed by worries about the future.
We're free to experience the world around us.
To connect with that divine presence in everything.
To express our love and gratitude more fully.
It's like stepping out of the whirlwind of our thoughts and into the stillness of the present moment.
That's where we can finally hear the whispers of our soul.
The guidance of the divine.
And that guidance is always available to us, isn't it?
It is. We just need to cultivate the stillness to perceive it, the purity of heart to hear it.
Rumi's poetry is a powerful reminder of this truth.
It is. As we continue to explore his work, let his words guide us on our own journeys.
To live more authentically, to love more
To
deeply.
embrace the beauty and wonder of this present moment.
And remember, as Rumi himself wrote, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there.
What a beautiful thought.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the wisdom of Rumi.
May his words continue to inspire you.
And until next time, may you be filled with the radiant light of the divine.